Who are these people?
And then 2 people. Two people. Yay! We're back. We did it. We're back. I don't know why it kicked us off, but we're back. Hopefully you can tell all the people that were just here to where we're at again. Should be live still on the Rumble. And I think the Rockfin is still okay. If I hit this go live button. So yeah, we're back. Claire Daly apparently overheated the coils. Who knew? So, but yeah, that was Claire Daly. Let's go back to her. She finished, right? We did finish her.
Yeah, we finished her. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And back into the bank accounts of the military-industrial complex.
I don't think we finished her completely.
I just wanted to remind you, that also we're a civilian imprisoned population.
So maybe do the last minute.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I also need to flip-flop things for you. Filters. Here. Okay. Let's go back here.
12 years. So I think it is very fitting that we're here against the backdrop of the appalling atrocities and the live stream genocide in Gaza. We know that also where a civilian imprisoned population is being targeted. We also know the Ukraine war is going on without end because that's what NATO want. And I just wanted to remind you of the words of Julian when he talked about the war in Afghanistan. And he said that these wars are about flushing the money from the tax bases of the US and the EU through Afghanistan and back into the bank accounts of the military-industrial complex. It's not about winnable war, it's about endless war. How true he was! And therefore, that voice, that very special voice that he had is needed now more than ever, because it's not just about silencing the peace movement, it's about journalism, it is about silencing the peace movement. So let's remember also that if wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by the truth. You're all here on the side of truth, so is Julian. We'll be all here tomorrow, and we will not rest until justice prevails.
Well, I blame you, Claire, for getting our stream killed. Obviously it was your fault for speaking too much truth, Claire. So on to the next one. So, you know, shout out to our peeps that traveled. You know, you guys supported them to go. They went, they covered things. Russell Dobular of Dude Dissonance, aka Amber of Roar Media, doing the work out there. So I also wanted to showcase some of the amazing activists that don't get nearly the credit they deserve. No. So Yellow Ribbons for Assange with their amazing activism here. Your name should be in this group of yellow ribbons, Collin. My name should be in there. A lot of people's names should be in there. If you've got a yellow ribbon and you've earned your yellow ribbon, you know, let us know in the chat. So yeah, here's what also happened. This is all this is a laser projector. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're kind of neat. They spin lasers around and make stuff look good. So here's what it was putting up. I saw it get put up again. This is the Tower of London. It says free ass on it.
That's Tower Bridge.
Yes, this is the Tower of London, though.
That one is, yeah.
And this is Tate Modern. I saw it on Big Ben too. They kind of been killing it out there. So
Yeah.
but this is, what bridge is this?
That's Tower Bridge.
Okay, yeah. Extradition 2021. Royal Court of London. If wars can be started by truth, or started by lies, peace can be started by truth. So yeah, you know, cool stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Denver Free Assange, killing it. Over there in Denver, they put out all these little pictures out there with the Palestinian flags, and they write, Denver, Day X setting up now, honoring the journalists who have their lives to bring us the truth about the Gaza genocide, and rallying to save the life of another man who gave us the truth that could have prevented it. Right? Misty trying to give, you know, credit where credit is due, and they had a whole event there in Denver. It was Forest Mommy out there, you know, doing the work. So also, Randy Credico, let's talk. He's got 2 billboard trucks in New York and 1 in DC. Melbourne's got their billboard trucks up. So those people were out in full force. We've got, this was over in Raleigh. You got Ray McGovern, right? He was out there. They did a whole little banner drop out there. New York represented. You got Katie Halper out there, Randy Credico. I think Medea Benjamin was also there. What else, Collin? We got Boston. Boston did their thing. Ford Fisher out there in DC, right? Doing the work as always. And look at these people who vigiled at the White House. So nice of them to do that. Candles for Assange over in Australia. They had theirs. This was in Chicago, right? Kevin Gostola reporting. So what else we got? We've got, again, Aussies came out. So this was LA for Assange. What else we got? Portland for Assange. They did their thing, right? We have Ireland representing over in Dublin. Where's this? Streets of London. They had a billboard truck out there too, out there in front of London Eye. There's Big Ben over there. So we got Glory Jones in Miami, catching some eyes already. Halo Benson, who we had on last week, was out there in Tulsa. And Melbourne for Assange represented. They got their Assange truck going. So yeah. Can I click next? There we go. So day 2, Collin, right? Would you like to see what they had to be met with? By the way, props to everyone out here this early in London on day 2, because I'm gonna tell you, it acted like London. It was cold and miserable and rainy and wet. It was London. So it was bad. Luckily it cleared up the middle of the day, but definitely that morning it was pretty grim. So, but this is what they were greeted to outside of the royal courts. Every time I full screen, it just doesn't like it. There you go. So, yeah, I mean, they definitely had Definitely had some people out there these people had to walk by, so, you know. So both sides of the street. That doggo! I saw doggo! Doggo for Assange. Look at the cute doggo. Alright. So let's start day 2. So, technical problems on day 1. Do you think it got fixed, Collin? Hell no. Hell no. So, consortium news. Judge, we are aware there were technical problems yesterday which impeded many journalists from following the proceedings. Apologies. Please let us know if they persisted today. Let's see what actually happened. The sound quality of the remote link is so poor that nobody observing the case via the remote access link nor in the media overspill room can hear what the legal representatives are saying. Court has risen as the staff attempt to sort this out. Okay? So, the UK courts are proving themselves incapable of administering a public hearing in a high-profile extradition case. Kevin Gostola, Stefania Marizzi, the High Court judges just ordered the Julian Assange hearing to be temporarily suspended because even in the courtroom, we cannot hear what is being discussed. Stefania was 3 meters away from U.S. lawyers and yet could not hear what they had to say. So, it gets worse, Care Bear. This is Mohammed El-Mazi, another incredible journalist. Day 2 of Julian Assange's permission to appeal hearing at the High Court of Justice. I have been forced to leave the courtroom to the press office and observe via video link. God willing, the connection will be strong enough to hear anything. Despite the fact that I have a press ticket, that I applied early, that I am the only journalist who have covered every single hearing in Julian Assange extradition case since April 2019. I was asked to leave the press section and move to the public gallery, which has no tables or anywhere for me to place my laptop and type. This is because priority is given not to the press who arrive on time, but rather members of the establishment press to ensure that they have a seat. Even though plenty legacy and establishment press entered yesterday, having been given priority among the press, the fact that I have a disability and can't write and therefore require the use of my laptop makes it all the worse. Caitlin Johnstone, one of our favorites, journos who've been covering Assange's case from day 1 are being forced to give up their seats to the mainstream press who've been ignoring Assange case the entire time, if not actively cheerleading his persecution. They show up the day the U.S. presents its arguments. Of course. Par for the course, no?
Yeah.
So, again, Matt O'Brien. Assange hearing day 2. Sketch of counsel for U.S. Argument outline. Assange is not a journalist. XY Chelsea is not a whistleblower. Right? That's Chelsea Manning. Had they been able to crack a hash, it could have allowed Manning to remain anonymous, right? So here this is the U.S. representative. So Assange counsel is smashing the U.S. arguments to bits. U.S. counsel visibly grimacing and hanging their heads. So that's that. So, let's get into why that might be the case. Richard Medhurst, Claire Dobbin, who was the U.S. attorney here, saying that the district judge, the judge in the lower court, Vanessa Baritzer, did not end up viewing Assange as journalist. She says that Assange's lawyers are portraying the indictment as a construct to punish Assange for political views, but a new U.S. administration was elected since the unsealing of the indictment. So her point is, basically, both the Trump and Biden administrations are proceeding with the extradition of Julian. So surely this means it's about the law and not a political persecution. Richie adds, you already know what I think, so I'll leave it for later. Yeah, thoughts so far, Care Bear?
I mean, I just feel like I'm just going to rehash what I said earlier. So,
okay.
No.
Denver Free Assange, they just keep repeating lies. Manning had access to all the docs, as did many. The so-called hack was an inquiry as to whether WikiLeaks could help them watch movies undetected, which they could not. This is a response to Dobbin, thus arguing that Assange's assistance to Manning, which might otherwise be seen as journalistic protection of a source, constitute criminal intent to steal classified documents. Matt O'Brien, allegation is that Assange solicited Manning to illegally access more material by saying curious eyes never run dry. Ears in the courtroom pricked up as the U.S. counsel dismissed another case by arguing that person was not under the jurisdiction of the U.S. That would be a factor, Care Bear. So, Richard Medhurst adds, Dobbin basically shrugs off the CIA plot to kill Assange, basically saying it doesn't matter because the indictment against Assange is legitimate. He adds, lol. So, again, you've got Hanafson, right? This is editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks after Julian was arrested. So he's going to summate, I think, some of this for us.
It was absolutely amazing to be in the courtroom this morning. I was not in the actual courtroom yesterday, but in a side room where I couldn't hear anything. Now I was in the actual courtroom and I still couldn't hear anything. So at least you're getting closer and you can see the reaction from the two judges and see the backhead of the lawyer representing the U.S. government. So what was he putting forth there? Absolutely nothing new. It was as we were offered to lunch on a leftover smorgasbord from last month. We've heard it all before, and it's all been refuted, not just in the courtrooms, but with new evidence that was totally disregarded. So they had nothing new to offer, but the old arguments that have been refuted. But what was interesting this morning is that the judges were paying attention and they were asking questions. Is it really true that Julian will not get a First Amendment protection when he is extradited? Etc., etc. At least we have the attention. Thanks to you, probably. They know that they need to scrutinize this and the arguments put forth. And the arguments were thin. Of course, we shouldn't be here, because it's been disputed everything that the Americans have been putting forth in this case. The day will continue. We will, of course, fight on. There is a glimpse of hope in the courts here. Let's not abandon that. Let's stay on that. Let's stay on the shift, on the watch. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for supporting Julian Assange. Let's free him. Let's free Assange now.
Any questions? Pretty much got it covered, right?
Yeah.
So Stella's going to explain a little bit of the arguments that were being made.
How pathetic the U.S. case is. They have to rely on lies. And then the prosecutors say, don't question these lies because that would offend our ally. 14 years on, all they can do is repeat the lies from the very first Pentagon press conference talking points sheet. What they're trying to argue is that state secrets trump revealing state crimes. This is the balance they're trying to shift. They want impunity, they don't want to be scrutinized, and journalism stands in the way. And in that courtroom, they are having to make their position increasingly clear. They have to admit that what they're doing is criminalizing journalism, is criminalizing the truth. They are liars, they are criminals, and they are persecuting the journalists who expose them. Julian is a truth teller, he is a political prisoner. And the world is watching these courts and how they deal with this case. Please be here and come and march to Downing Street after the proceedings are over this afternoon. Thank you.
I mean, not much else to say, right?
No.
What else I got? There's a little bit more. We're on the home stretch though, so. Oh, of course. Julian's brother, Gabriel Shipton. He should definitely be added to this list
Hey
here.
everyone, thanks again for coming out and braving the weather. Amazing turnout again. Well, I mean, it's sort of a bit embarrassing watching the prosecutors in there trying to tell us that day was night and night was day, that Chelsea Manning's not a whistleblower and Julian's not a journalist. They really just brought absolute shame to that court and to the United Kingdom justice system. And this case remains a stain on the US, a stain on the UK, and both governments should be absolutely ashamed of it and what they're doing to press freedom and our rights. Because what was going on in there is the prosecutors telling us that journalism is a threat to democracy. And whistleblowing is a threat to democracy. Our right to know is a threat to democracy. So shame on them and free Julian Assange.
Pretty much how we all feel. So Juan Passarelli, the judge asked the prosecution if it was possible that once in the U.S., new charges could be brought that may carry a death sentence, like conspiracy to commit treason or espionage. The prosecution said, yes, it could happen. So, Caitlin Johnstone, responding to Assange defenders, which writes, Judge Johnson, if the appellant is extradited, is there anything to prevent the charge of aiding and abetting treason from being charged? Counsel, no. Judge, so is there anything to prevent it? Do you accept that the sentence could be the death penalty? Counsel, yes. Judge Johnson, could there be any assurance to protect against that? Counsel, why should the prosecutors give an assurance when there is no real prospect it could happen? We say there must be a threshold reached, otherwise, in any case, people could raise this in any technical case. Keep in mind, Collin, one of these judges, worked on the Princess Diana case. I know you're super excited to hear that. So we'll get to what else they've done in a bit. But Caitlin writes, the prosecution is doing this weird dance when they acknowledge that Assange could be given the death penalty if extradited, refuse to offer any assurances that he won't be given the death penalty if extradited, but still says he should be extradited anyway because, trust me, bro. So Kevin Gostola, replying to Free Assange News, if the applicant is extradited, right? We heard this. So, UK statute prohibits extradition if the requested person, in this case Assange, would be at risk of the death penalty. The fact that a UK government lawyer accepts that Assange could be extradited and then face additional charges that carry the death penalty is a big deal. So, Comrade Misty, remember that judge I talked about? Worked for MI6. And she shares, this is fine. This is fine. So, to close us out, Comrade Misty, if you are a member of independent media and you are bitching and moaning because Assange supporters talk about Assange too much and expect you to cover it, you do not fucking get it. Who the actual fuck do you think they're coming for when they're done with Assange?
Right.
Nico
And that's
House.
what exactly.
Go ahead.
That's what Misty shared with me, because there's certain, I'll say it, Tim Black had an issue with his interview with Cornel West last week. He was like, I don't get why people are making such a big deal about Assange, because it's not, quote unquote, a black issue to him.
Oh, no, it couldn't be.
Like, he's gone so pro-black that he forgets you're an independent media, sir.
Yep.
And Missy is right. Like, they're coming for you next.
Let's talk about black and brown folks in Afghanistan who got double tapped in the collateral murder video. Let's talk about all the black and brown folk who got murdered by people that were found out during the Vault 7 leaks, the Iraq files. How many times are you going to go over this with people? What about Palestine?
Right.
What about what Israel's doing? Julian Assange spoke to that too.
Right. And you know what? And I don't want to talk about Cornel West or Tim Black really, but
yes,
I just thought of this. Just because Cornel West recently talked with Assange.
Was out there with Randy Credico.
Right. So you would think that
you think he'd tell Tim Black to shut the fuck up, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's saying.
That could have been a time to educate Tim. No, this is why you should care.
Yeah.
You know, so like, given like what he's in jail for, that affects you in terms of what
all that rage and passion is saved for people like Jimmy Dore and you know,
so it just
RBN.
kind of goes to show it's either one of two things with Dr. West. Like, either he doesn't care about these issues as much as he says he does, or he is told and it just kind of goes over his head.
Yeah.
Because it may not be applicable to him either.
Nico House, I want everyone to pay attention how quietly Elon Musk has been about the Assange trial, despite the fact he could have tens of millions paying attention with a single tweet. The silence is deliberate, and it's about time his loyal followers start asking who he really works for.
Well, I mean, we've been new, but you know, it's not surprising that Elon has been fairly silent about this.
So, the defense concluded by saying that this was not a prosecution, but a persecution by the highest levels of government, and that the indictment was only issued when the CIA was planning to render and kidnap Assange, and the U.S. president ordered plans for his murder. Assange would like you to keep fighting. So, yeah, I don't know when we're going to get results from this. The words are maybe around March. So, yep. Andy would like me to remind people that Juan was live with Misty on TNT Radio earlier today. You can check out Misty's Substack to find links to find that. I'm sure Andy can link that in the chat. But yeah, closing thoughts? Anything?
I mean, closing thoughts. I mean, overall, keep fighting, you know, and I mean, if you've been in independent media and long enough, you'll know about Assange by now. And so, you know, this is bad. And like, I have no faith in our system that it's going to work in a way that it should work for Assange, that he will be. And I don't say this with any sort of certainty, but I mean, it's not looking good for him
Yeah.
at this point. And you need to do in the same way that you guys have been very well, I would add, calling out politicians in regards to what's happening in Palestine, calling out politicians in regards to what happened at George Floyd. You need to have that same passion and that same fire for Assange as well. Well, really any issue that you care about where the empire is involved, but especially given this, where this could very well affect the information that you get on a daily basis in terms of how the press can easily manipulate you. And we've seen this in terms of what Israel is doing in regards to the propaganda that they're spewing alone. Imagine that happening here to that degree with the information that from sources that we have been conditioned to believe to be true. And so you need to continue to really stand up for Assange in terms of what's happening to him and the effect that will have in terms of not just free speech, but the idea of, not being able to say the truth and then, you get penalized for it.
Yep.
So this affects everybody.
Absolutely.
So we need to make sure that we've been doing our part. And I mean, shout out to Missy and all the activists who have been doing this work for years and been, who've been doing this activism for years without really much thanks, and really not much so far has resulted from this. So if you really care, push your politicians to do more for Assange. We had Halo last week. If you want to support in terms of, writing letters to your politician, she will do them. All you have to do is just send her.
I'm still waiting my box from her.
Right.
So.
And, she will do and if you go to last week's stream, we linked her information so that if you want to do something like that, you can.
Yeah.
But we need to take this very seriously, because this is the potential of heading down a slippery slope in terms of what we deem as truth. That if they can do this to Assange, they can do this to anybody, and that includes us, especially who are in independent media.
Well, otherwise, if we don't get this guy free,
we're fucked.
It's gonna be a bad time. So, here's how you can help. Look, like, subscribe, share this stream, help fight suppression. It's a doozy. Help I didn't get to 2K. Hit that little subscribe button down there. Let us know what number you got in the comment. We'd love to know who gets number 2000. We're getting there. So, tell them what they win, Care Bear. I don't know. We ain't got nothing to give you. Sorry. I wish we could. We can find an old car at the junkyard. Do you want that? It's a car. So let's head to the next one.
Before we do it, I want to check Rock and Rumble rants.
Yep, Indy's there. Ghost Start's there on the Rumble. That's what their super chats are called.
Okay.
So Arim holding it down. Thank you for all your important work. Appreciate that. We do have it up on the Rockfin and the Rumble. I'm gonna actually link those in the chat. So if you want to go there and leave us, some donos, would be very nice of you. Copy the Rumble link, put that in chat, leave a comment there too. Why wouldn't you? Make sure you're not a lizard person. So, Collin, you brought this.
Well, before you do that, can I see your computer screen, if you mind fixing it.
Oh, like that? That's better for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's better for me.
Cool.
It just TBS
hard
for
to
everyone
see.
else is just so I could read
Yeah.
and see better what's on the screen on my end. So yeah, and I should have thought of this because I saw a meme with Linda here with her raised hand in blood. I should have done that for this in hindsight. Maybe we can add that,
In post.
when we clip in post after we clip this. But yeah, as I said earlier, this is the idea. Once again, this kind of proves the idea of black faces in high places don't mean shit if they work for the empire. And Linda is one of them. So don't listen to all these shitty people who say, the idea of having black people in power is going to be a benefit to us, because it's not, especially if they know where their money is coming from. So this is a big story that I'm kind of surprised that no one has really talked about. But then again, this kind of came out yesterday or over Monday, and then obviously people were, talking about Assange, so which is good. But I didn't want to bring this story because actually there's a little bit more to the story, that breaking news that I found yesterday that you should know that connects to Biden in relation to this.
Well, I definitely was going to pull this as well, and you beat me to it. This story. That was really the one I was going to pull today too. So,
all right. But forward. There we go. So this story is from Common Dreams. This is written by Julia Conley. And she writes, as Israel forces fire on starving Palestinians, U.S. again vetoes UN ceasefire resolution. We should ask ourselves, how many innocent lives must be sacrificed before the Council deems it necessary to call for a ceasefire, said the Algerian envoy to the United Nations. So Julia continues. As the United Nations agency halted aid deliveries in northern Gaza, where acute malnourishment is rampant among children, citing a breakdown of social order fueled by Israel's bombardment and of the blockade on the enclave, the United States, for a third time on Tuesday, vetoed a ceasefire resolution at the UN Security Council, saying it was an inopportune time to demand that Israel end its massacre on Palestinians. Say what?
What? What?
U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield said the ceasefire resolution proposed by Algeria would negatively impact negotiations for a truce that are ongoing.
Okay.
So you could play the bullshit that she was saying here.
Yep. This was after.
After. So this was after, but
yeah. Didn't I put the before one in too? Where'd that go?
I
thought
think
I put
moved it.
Okay.
No, I moved it. So it would make sense why I moved it where I did.
Okay. Let's do this. Full screen.
We intend to do this the right way so that we can create the right conditions for a safer, more peaceful future. And we will continue to actively engage in the hard work of direct diplomacy on the ground until we reach a final solution.
A what?
And what's that?
A
what's
final
that final solution?
A final solution?
Yeah. Oh.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You need Jesus. That's what you need. God.
So yeah, I don't know what that final solution is. I think.
Oh, we know. We can take some guesses.
When Palestinians are ethnically cleansed.
But
anyway, Amar Bajama, Algeria's ambassador to the UN, said the U.S. ambassador's lone vote against a resolution implies an endorsement of the brutal violence and collective punishment inflicting upon Palestinians in Gaza. 13 countries supported the resolution, while the UK, which has veto power like the US, China, France, and Russia, abstained from voting. bitches. The vote marked the third time the U.S. has vetoed a ceasefire resolution at the UN Security Council. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has approved weapons transfers to Israel without the oversight of the U.S. Congress since the assault began in October, and has vehemently defended the bombardment as being focused on defeating Hamas, even as Israel has killed more than 29,000 Palestinians, including more than 11,500 children. We should ask ourselves, how many innocent lives must be sacrificed before the Council deems it necessary to call for a ceasefire, said Benjama. Palestinian lives matter. Each one of us decides where to stand in this tragic chapter of history. As the U.S. rejected the ceasefire resolution, Al Jazeera reported on the chaos that has erupted in northern Gaza as Israel has blocked aid trucks from reaching starving civilians there. The World Food Program said yesterday it was pausing deliveries after crowds of desperate people overwhelmed aid workers. So I'll play that clip from Al Jazeera.
Mm-hmm.
We played something similar to this before. I think maybe like about 3 weeks ago now.
Yep.
But just, yeah, more chaos in terms of the,
What's happening.
the suffering there. So go ahead.
Hungry Palestinian children try to retrieve flour that has spilled on the ground. After a bag burst during chaotic scenes as thousands gathered for aid. There was not enough food on the trucks for everyone. Israel's siege on Gaza means only a limited amount of aid gets through. Witnesses say Israeli forces fired on the crowd to break it up. Collin, they fired on people picking up flour to eat.
Yeah. So sport. This is like sport for them. It's just like, oh, look at all these.
This
rats.
is
So
this is like hunting. Leave.
Right.
Feed. Bro.
But this sounds very intentional to me in a sense, in terms of
sure,
there's not enough food, so whatever left is that people are gonna rush for it.
Right.
And it's like, okay, like
let's bomb that.
Hunting season, as you said, hunting season.
Yeah, put out the salt lick.
Right.
Bro.
But anyway, continuing with the clip, for those of you who might be listening and not seeing the text. One person reportedly died while others were rushed to the hospital.
I went down. I heard
gunshots.
We want to feed our children just like everyone else, so we went to get some flour. But then we were shot at, shells were fired, and tanks advanced at us.
Israeli forces have repeatedly fired at crowds waiting to collect aid. The UN says Gaza is at risk of famine due to Israel's war on the enclave.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, Miss Linda, what's your final solution to this?
That's what it is. Dude, that's
But anyway. Let's
one too
continue.
far. Go back one. There you go. I think, right?
Screen, please.
Oh, yeah, that would help you, wouldn't it?
The WFP and the UN Children's Fund said Monday that starvation is particularly severe in northern Gaza, with 1 in 6 children under age of 2, more than 15%, acutely malnourished. An estimated 3% of children under 2 are experiencing a severe form of wasting. being underweight for their age and height.
Which we've covered
In
on
December-
INN News before. Hopefully I can
Yes.
annotate that up there somewhere. You know?
In December, 15 agencies, including the WFP, warned that northern Gaza is at risk for a famine by May unless conditions significantly improve. Whoops.
Mhm.
Oh. The United States veto on Algeria's resolution on Tuesday, said Benjama, should be understood as approval for salvation as a means of war against hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. The U.S. proposed its own resolution calling for a temporary ceasefire as soon as practicable and warned Israel not to conduct an expected ground operation in Rafah, where more than 1.5 million people, most of whom have been forcibly displaced from other parts of Gaza, are now sheltering.
Yep.
The permanent mission of Liechtenstein to the UN called on the UN General Assembly to take action to protect Palestinians.
Mm.
Oh,
There you go.
So this is their tweet that they posted yesterday. The UN Security Council has again failed in its primary responsibility to maintain peace and security due to the use of the veto. Palestinian civilians trapped in Rafah have nowhere to go. The General Assembly must now step up to protect them and uphold the Charter of the UN. Under Section A of Resolution 377A of the UN Charter, also known as Uniting for Peace, the UNGA can convene an emergency meeting and make recommendations for collective measures if members of the UNSC can't reach an agreement and fail to exercise their primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. Hossam Bagat, executive director of the Egyptian Initiative for Personal Rights, suggested the U.S. veto should trigger mass resignations of U.S. diplomats and public servants from the State Department and across the administration. I mean, it should, if people had a conscience, but it's not going to. And you actually pulled this up for me.
Yeah. This is the actual veto.
Right. From Decensored News.
Yep.
The U.S. vetoes Algeria's ceasefire resolution at the UN Security Council, despite impassioned appeal from Algerian Ambassador Omar Benjama. Today, every Palestinian is a target for death, extermination, and genocide. A vote in favor of this draft resolution is a support to the Palestinians' right to life. Every other country voted in favor instead for the UK, who abstained. So
yep,
we can see what he.
The draft resolution underscores key elements, including 1. A humanitarian ceasefire. 2nd, unhindered aid delivery to all parts of the Gaza Strip. 3rd, rejection of forced displacement of Palestinians. 4, compliance with provisional measures ordered by the International Court of Justice. 5th and last, the imperative for all parties to respect their obligations under international humanitarian law. Today, every Palestinian is a target for death, extermination, and genocide. The international community must act swiftly, as the value of ceasefire diminishes with each passing moment. A vote in favor of this draft resolution is a support to the Palestinians' right to life. Conversely, voting against it implies an endorsement of the brutal violence and collective punishment inflicted upon them. A positive vote brings hope for hundreds of thousands of children to return to school and enjoy their right to education. Conversely, voting against the draft resolution is a vote in favor of annihilating their dream for a better life. Supporting the draft resolution means endorsing the Palestinian right to food. Rejecting it constitutes, however, an approval of starvation as mean of war against hundreds of thousands of Palestinians.
I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024/173 please raise their hand? Those against?
Bitch.
Fuck you, bitch.
Abstentions?
Oh, fuck you too. You're with your AOC absent. Bitch, you're there. We see you
The
there.
result of the voting is as follows. 13 votes in favor, 1 vote against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the council.
Bro.
See, that doesn't make sense. Like,
No.
How is it that the U.S. has that much power?
Power. Check. No. Empty. Check. I think that's an overwhelming majority, no?
Right. But
the U.S. stands alone in its bullshit?
No, it made us stands alone, but our vote makes the difference. That's what I do not understand.
And I bet you the UK abstained probably made that, like, possible.
Probably.
And he says every permanent member has that power. So who are the permanent members? Riddle me that.
But you can take well, actually, you know, France, to their credit, voted the right way. Like,
right. Are they not a permanent member?
China, to their credit, voted the right way. Russia, to their credit, voted the right way. So those are first world countries generally. So what gives with the US?
Yeah, I mean, this is some shit fucking. This is like coin flipping a primary type of democracy. This is some bullshit.
So India's mentioning the 7 permanent members have that power. Which countries have that power?
Right.
Like other than the US.
None of these are permanent.
So Nick
France, Russia, US, UK, Japan, Switzerland, China. So he's saying that they any of these get veto power, and even if all the other ones agree,
right?
What the fuck is the point then?
So it's basically like the first world countries have this power. So what gives them that priority? Well, we can take a guess why, but why have them given that extra power over everybody else?
Yeah, I don't know.
So in a way, it kind of leads to, you know, with honestly, like maybe let's say France, they could afford to vote yes.
Yeah.
If they knew that the US was not going to vote no.
Right.
So honestly, all of them, in a sense, are fucking bastards to me.
Well, sure. I mean, this is also money based, right?
But it's like,
this is also.
You can make the argument, like, France. I'm pretty sure would not necessarily, if push came to shove, would not necessarily voted yes. But I think because they knew that how the United States is with Israel, that they were like, I could afford to vote yes, knowing that they were going to say
So even out of the permanent powers, we've got Russia, France, China, Japan,
Germany's
right?
on the list.
Nick said Japan and Swiss aren't permanent members. Okay. So you still have some going yes, hopefully. I don't know. That seems weird, and definitely not the way it should work, if it does work that way.
No.
So you brought this.
Yeah. So Hossam Begat who we mentioned just a second ago, mentioned this. I'm sure this third U.S. veto, and first since the world's top court under a U.S. presiding judge found plausible ongoing genocide in Gaza, will lead to massive resignations of U.S. diplomats and public servants, as he said before. So, and we know, that's not happening because we don't have anyone that has a conscience in power like this. But anyway.
Oh, what happened? Oh, you clicked it?
No, I moved it, yeah. So Al Jazeera reported that Palestinians in Gaza expressed anger over the United States' latest veto. There is a great deal of pessimism and frustration. Palestinians no longer trust the international community, as we have been hearing from locals here in Gaza. Correspondent Tariq Abdul Hazoum reported from Rafah. During the Security Council meeting, there have been more attacks on the ground here in Gaza. People here are completely frustrated, as they should be. So I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
Reef. So not a total loss, because although the UN fucked up, that's not the Linda got it. She got it, like, she had some folks at Columbia University. So shout out to, Gen Z once again doing the damn thing.
Okay.
I guess she went to speak and they weren't happy with what she did. So this was again after the vote. So I guess within the last couple of days. So here she is at Columbia University about to give a talk. And you can guess what happens.
Delighted to be part of you and joining this.
Regulations and the conduct of the university, we will ask delegates to now please escort you.
Lady, there's someone in the crowd talking.
You are interrupting an
lady,
academic
we're trying
event. And
lady, we're trying to hear the lady.
In contrast to the university regulations about time, place, and manner. You are now going to be escorted. Okay. Okay.
So what I'd like to talk to you...
I wouldn't like to talk to you, so I wanted to hear that lady, and you didn't let us hear her, so,
About today. To start with, I visited 5 months ago a refugee camp in Adre, Chad, just over the border from Sudan, and I heard from so many people who have said to me...
This is yet again a violation of the university rules of conduct.
Fuck the
you
rules.
are interrupting an academic
No,
proceeding.
it's not. That's no
it
violation.
It is time for you to exit.
They have a right to do that.
Yes.
They have a right to do that.
In fact, invite them on stage, maybe, to do that. Let's see what they have to say.
This is what I believe is happening now, that because Miss Hillary got this treatment a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago now. So now they wised up. So basically, they're like, anyone who dissents gets gone.
Get them out. Get them out. Gotta get them out. Get them out.
Exit the space.
What is this, a safe space for genociders?
The university rules of conduct. This is an academic proceeding, and you need to exit the space.
Academic? What are we learning? What are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm not sure if you guys have heard that protester, but she basically said everyone who's there should be walking the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like...
briefly and reconvene in a moment. We embrace freedom of expression at Columbia University. This is
only until the entire room started to do it. Right. The other two people were escorted out. Remember? We remember. Like,
Violation of the university rules of conduct, as it's a disruption of an academic proceeding. Thank you for making your way out of the event space.
I mean, just this face.
Yeah.
is like pretty bad. Just that.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh God. I didn't think this would have direct ramifications for me. That's what that face is.
Right. That's it. That's enough, basically. That's pretty much it. So, but yeah, so at least
too.
You know, at least she got it. You know, from the students at Columbia, you know, just showing their dissent and anger. Any thoughts before I continue? Because I have a little bit more.
No, I think that was very apparent. That spoke a lot. That spoke a lot.
All right. So this is kind of breaking. As I was prepping last night, I stumbled upon this. So remember how we talked about how Biden was like, "Oh, I feel empathy for, you know, the Palestinians, and I'm talking to maybe, you know, to, you know, get aid and all this kind of mess that he's been saying." Right?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So
don't lie.
this also is an article from Julia Conley. This came out yesterday. So after Linda did the thing and caused the veto at the UN, Biden to attend a fundraiser at home of a pro-Israel billionaire. The American Muslim community is running out of words to describe our feelings about the Biden administration's support for the Gaza genocide, says one advocate. So we continue. Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Hours after his ambassador to the United Nations vetoed the third ceasefire resolution to be proposed at the UN Security Council since Israel began its US-backed bombardment of Gaza in October, President Joe Biden was scheduled to attend a high-dollar fundraiser at the home of an influential pro-Israel billionaire on Tuesday. One thing I have to say here, notice how Julia says pro-Israel. Say Zionist. That's what he is. And we'll get to who it is in a second.
So
and
is
those
Biden,
of you especially, so especially for those of you who grew up in the 90s, you'll be maybe surprised, maybe not, of the person whose house he attended.
Another thing, Mint Press has had an article about pro-Israeli / Zionist billionaires influence elections. Go check that out. Worth a read. So
right. Tickets for the event hosted in LA by media mogul Haim Saban started at $3,300 at cost as much as $250,000. So those of you who do not know who Haim Saban is, if you know Power Rangers, he is the one who is responsible for bringing Power Rangers to the US, among other of those tokusatsu shows from Japan. So the Power Ranger, used to be the Power Rangers guy, hosted Biden at an event in his house for a fundraiser.
He's the white Power Ranger. Emphasis on the white power. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
So, other exclusive fundraising events for Biden, who is seeking re-election in November, have been disrupted in recent months by protesters demanding that the U.S. end its support for Israel, which has killed more than 25,000 Palestinians in Gaza since October. Co-hosts of the fundraiser include attorney Cliff and Leslie Gilbert-Lurie, whose own event in November was marked by demands for a ceasefire from people in a crowd as Vice President Kamala Harris spoke. Demonstrators also displayed fake blood at the Gilbert-Lurie's home. Nicole Muchnick, a vice chair of the Anti-Defamation League, is also a host of yesterday's event. Mutnick's staunchly pro-Israel organization has frequently accused pro-Palestinian rights groups of anti-Jewish sentiment, equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Jewish-led Palestinian rights group If Not Now pointed out that Saban has been quoted as suggesting the U.S. should scrutinize Muslims to get them to admit they are or they're not terrorists. What?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
So this was a tweet that they referenced. So there's in Haaretz, Saban said, "I'm not suggesting we torture Muslims, but they should be scrutinized." So If Not Now tweeted, "This morning, Biden vetoed a ceasefire in Gaza. Tonight, he goes to a fundraiser hosted by AIPAC billionaire Haim Saban, with donors giving up to $250,000 each."
So he stops just after enhanced interrogation techniques.
The full quote, "I'm not suggesting we put Muslims through some kind of torture room to get them to admit they are or they're not terrorists, but I'm saying we should have more scrutiny." So,
man, that's a real high frequency with that amount of dog whistle in there.
Right.
Okay.
On Monday, the group led a vigil outside the Los Angeles residence of the vice president, when sitting Shiva with grief for all those who have been killed, Palestinian and Israeli, and begging the Biden-Harris administration to end it, said If Not Now. Ahead of Saban's fundraiser, fresh outrage erupted among Palestinian rights advocates after UN Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield vetoed Algeria's resolution for a ceasefire. "The American Muslim community is running out of words to describe our feelings about the Biden administration's support for the Gaza genocide," said Nahad Awad, executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. We've talked about him before. "The latest U.S. veto of a UN ceasefire resolution is shameful. President Biden should stop acting like Benjamin Netanyahu's defense lawyer and start acting like the President of the United States. We call on the American people to continue expressing their opposition to the Biden administration's support for the Israeli government's war crimes by contacting the White House and their elected officials and calling on them to demand a ceasefire, access to humanitarian aid, and pursuit of a just, lasting peace," Awad added. Any thoughts as we end here?
Nope. Sounds about par for the course. I mean, heads of football teams, multiple billionaires, they're all in the pocket of Israel. So, plenty of articles out there for you to read up on that. So, this is no surprise. This veto is no surprise.
The veto is no surprise. The fact that, as I said, I got this last night, but the fact that Biden is basically being two-faced and basically saying to the Arab community, and listening to Sabi, I think the other night, basically her mentioning, blackmailing the Arab community and basically being like, "Oh, well, if you don't vote for Biden, then, you're going to get Trump and he might deport you, or, like, we're going to lose more of women's rights and women and all of that stuff." Meanwhile, their families are being murdered in the Middle East, and they have not done anything. And given what we're seeing, even with aid, very little is getting in. And they're shooting them, trying to get the little food that they can get. So, but Biden just being Biden, continuing to go, like, I don't understand in his mind, what in the hell is he thinking? Just the optics of going to a Zionist home for a fundraiser, given what he said about Muslims, and
bro, he doesn't even know where his keys are, let alone like You don't even know where, like, if you asked him where he's at anywhere, he will give you a wrong answer. Where are you at? Right. I don't know. I mean, grandma's house? Like, right.
I don't know. Maybe you guys should also boycott Power Rangers as well, but I think
90s Power Rangers is fine. You would still watch that.
That's what he owned, though.
I just pirated
at that time.
You know, don't worry about it. You know,
you just want to hang on to your youth. I get it.
Hey, man, like, you know, it had nothing to do with Israel unless the putties were an analogy for something else. Like Rita Pulsa was a evil white lady. So, you know, like had an inclusive cast of people. Now, it is kind of weird that they made the outfits to be their racial stereotypes, but, you know, what do I know?
I mean, I will say this before we end, you know, like, Emmanuel, I forgot his last name, but who played Zach, the Black Ranger, and he was my favorite for obvious reasons.
You legit.
But he left he left the show early as well as the others because they were not unionized. So so Saban basically paid them like pennies.
And the two ladies were fucking put through hell. They were like gymnasts, and they were like shooting was crazy difficult.
Right.
On top of rest in peace to Tommy. He's no longer with us. You know, the green Power Ranger.
But basically, you know, like Saban, you know, like is racist and a Zionist, but he's also cheap. So you know, so you know, but my favorite Power Ranger back in the day left because he wasn't getting his money, essentially. So Saban,
good for him.
You know, but but shout out to at least the three of them of the original cast who knew their worth, and they were like, "Nah, we can't do this for pennies."
Good to know.
But anyway,
if you're listening, I'd love to have you on, dude. That's like you were pumped right into my childhood brain. I loved every bit of it. So feel free to reach out. You know, especially you, Pink Ranger. We like you. But yeah. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment, like and subscribe. You know, hit that subscribe button. Make this number go up. You know, we're trying to get to 2K. Let us know in the comment what number you get when you press the button. So ready for our next one, Care Bear, while I check Rockfin and Rumble?
Yeah, it seems like people in the chat have some connections to the Power Rangers.
Sure. I'm sure we can make things happen, especially one of those Red Rangers. I think one of the other Red Rangers was in Gay Porn, the original one. If I'm not mistaken.
I don't think that's true.
It might not be. I could be talking about my ass.
That's true. Yeah, I think that was a rumor, but I don't think that was true.
I heard about it. I did hear about it.
No, I feel like I've heard murmurings of that that as well. But I don't think that's
okay. Legit. Tommy was doing martial arts stuff before he killed himself. But anyway, Rockfin, Denver Attaway in the house. So yeah, we got some people in there. Feels like all the leaders are cowards, says Anna Mayers on the Rockfin. Yep. Couldn't agree more. Indie News over on the Rumble says ceasefire, go start, save the ghost. So good of you guys looking out. I should be leaving those things in the chat, shouldn't I? So if people want to go over there and interact with us on the Rumble and Rockfin, they can. Let's see if I can do that because I have magic buttons that remembers what I copied. Cool. Look at that. You can click those. Go over there. Leave us some super rays or some rumble rants. Before we get to this, all out war, Care Bear. You've been paying attention to what's happening in Yemen.
Yes.
Good. So, let's get started with this story from Ahmed Abdul Karim. I hope I didn't butcher your name. The threat of all-out war. Yemen nears the tipping point as U.S. airstrikes intensify. Of course, this is from Mint Press, doing incredible work. Go support them. So, he writes, in the courtyard of Yemen's famous Al-Shaib Mosque, guards of honor stood at attention, accompanied by the melody of military music as the funeral ceremony of Yemeni Marines killed in the last round of U.S. and U.K. strikes commenced. The mourners, many of whom traveled from the countryside to attend, walking alongside a long convoy, carrying the bodies of 17 victims as it has made its way through the streets of Sana'a. Mourners held aloft photos of the deceased or thrust their rifles into the air while chanting slogans condemning the United States, as you should. Several banners prepared the crowd, emblazoned with the label given to those who gave their lives in what many view as a struggle in defense of Palestine. Quote, martyrs on the road to Al-Quds, aka Jerusalem. 17 pickup trucks ensconced in green drapes bore the bodies. They were escorted by family members alongside thousands of mourners leaving Sana'a for the hometown of the victims who hailed from various regions of Yemen. The scene unfolded last Sunday when thousands of angry Yemenis took to the streets of Sana'a, I hope that's how you pronounce that, and other cities to hold a funeral for those killed by the attacks. Retribution against American soldiers. We will not abandon our revenge, some mourners proclaimed. In Bani Matar, 70 kilometers west of Sana'a, towards the Hodeidah Road, the mothers of Siad al-Jlan and Hajam al-Sawari watched the convoy from a rooftop as it carried along the bodies of their sons. Ziad and Hashim were not involved in the fighting. They were among a number of civilians killed in attacks launched by the U.S. Navy on the Yemeni mainland 1 week ago. My son was martyred on the road to Al-Quds. Siad's mother said proudly, we will not be broken and we will not abandon Gaza. Thoughts so far, Care Bear? Anything?
Let's wait for a bit. I have a thought, but I want to think about it a little bit more.
U.S. and British officials maintain that their attacks target Houthi military positions, just like Israel swears it's Hamas, ammunition stores and missile launch sites, but the reality of the ground tells a different story, as it normally does. Yemeni civilians say they are blind and indiscriminate and often leave civilians maimed or killed. Assuming the U.S. and U.K. are acting in good faith, it is clear that their intelligent information is lacking. A truck belonging to a farmer carrying plastic pipes was targeted in an airstrike outside the city of Sadah last week. It is believed that the pipes were mistaken for missiles. The story has repeated itself ad nauseum throughout Yemen since the end of December, when the multinational Operation Prosperity Guardian was launched in a thus far failed attempt to protect ships linked with Israeli goods, I guess. Ansar Allah. This week alone, as many as 40 strikes were launched by the U.S. and the UK, most targeting the coastal city of Hodeidah.
I mean, is Hamas there?
Probably. Hamas is everywhere. You have Hamas inside you, Collin. Hamas is in all things. So this is the coffins of Ansar Allah fighters killed in the U.S.-led airstrikes on Yemen. You know, nice they got those Toyota Helixes out there still running. You know, killing the game. So can I click the? There we go. The danger of Washington's attacks on Yemen's mainland lies not only in exposing civilians to danger, but has the potential to spark retaliatory measures taken by Ansar Allah should pressure from the public and family members of victims continue to mount. On December 29th, when U.S. forces killed 10 Yemeni sailors aboard 3 ships in the Red Sea, Ansar Allah refrained from retaliating. But when Americans and British bombs peppered mainland Yemen the next month, striking major cities with over 100 precision-guided missiles, leaving civilians dead and maimed. Not so precision, are they? Ansar Allah reacted, carrying out a barrage of retaliatory attacks. Some Yemeni officials have even hinted that 2 U.S. Navy SEALs that the U.S. government claims drowned while boarding a boat smuggling weapons into Yemen were actually killed in combat. Collin! What does SEAL mean? What does that acronym mean, Care Bear?
That's an acronym?
Yes, you didn't know?
No.
It stands for Sea, Air, and Land. Do you know why that sea part is important for SEALs? You ever seen SEALs in movies? Where do they come out of?
Yeah.
Water. They come out of water. They come out of water. Okay? They go for weeks on end in Bud's training for water confidence school. Do you think that two highly trained U.S. Navy SEALs would drown?
No.
Okay.
Not likely.
Not likely. I just wanted to point that out for the boys and girls at home. Okay. They might have left a boot. I don't know. We'll see. It is not known.
That's an inside joke.
Yes.
To a segment.
Look up Das Boot on our channel.
Das Boot segment.
Uh-huh. It is. Hopefully I can annotate that somewhere if I remember. Bro, their scuba equipment failed or they were sabotaged, says Indy Left. Have you seen water confidence training?
How likely is that gonna happen though?
No, they train for it. They literally, the test goes, you put a guy underwater, Collin, okay? He's underwater. You black out his mask, you spray paint his mask black, okay? Then you have 3 trained U.S. Navy SEALs push him around, cut his lines, undo things, close valves. Is literally part of the training. Under duress. Okay. Okay. You know. So it is not known whether the soldiers were killed in attacks by Ansar Allah ballistic missiles or drones, or during a failed commando operation, as the U.S. claims. But what is clear is that the U.S. is covering its losses, and information about the deaths of the SEALs have been highly politicized. In fact, many of the details surrounding hostilities between the U.S. and Ansar Allah have been cast in a heavy fog of war, and it will likely be years before the truth is revealed. What is certain is that Ansar Allah has caused direct material damage to U.S. military vessels, targeting numerous times with advanced missiles and drones launched. In the wake of every single such attack, a statement was issued reaffirming Ansar Allah's right to take revenge for those killed on January 31st. The Ansar Allah announced that the American destroyer, the USS Gravely, was hit by several anti-ship missiles in the wake of the attack. U.S. Central Command, aka CENTCOM, announced that the Gravely had shot down an advanced anti-ship cruise missile. Later, reports emerged that the destroyer in question and other Western military assets in the area had failed to intercept the missile until it got within 4 seconds from hitting the U.S. warship. Collin, what do you think? How far do you think a missile can get in 4 seconds? A missile.
Pretty
Pretty quick.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty close.
Yeah.
On January 25th, Ansarallah said that it had clashed with American destroyers in the Gulf of Aden and Bab al-Mandab for 2 hours. One U.S. Navy vessel was directly hit after a failed interception attempt, according to Ansarallah, who have been improving their capabilities since 2014, after a failed Saudi-led and U.S.-backed bombing campaign left the country in tatters. This undated photograph released by CENTCOM shows the vessel that was being boarded by U.S. Navy SEALs near Yemen in a raid that saw 2 commandos go missing. In just 24 hours, Yemen has sunk British registered cargo ship Ruby Mar, downed American MQ-9 Reaper attack drone over Hodeida, struck American cargo vessel Sea Champion, and struck American cargo vessel Navis Fortuna. There's the boat, right? I had trouble finding the actual picture of the boat. I don't even know if this is it, but I'm sure it looks something similar, right? Fertilizer was being moved. Collin, do you know anything about fertilizer and what it might be capable of? Other than growing food.
That?
Way more than that. That is like... do you remember the giant explosion in... someone will tell me in the chat below. Where it blew up like almost the whole city. Crazy explosion. That was like... Anfo... Like... Beirut, Indy said. Yep.
Beirut.
Right, that was pretty much fertilizer.
Yeah.
So also Yemen Houthis captured the American Remus 600 unmanned underwater vehicle. This device is considered one of the most modern underwater reconnaissance units in the United States. You want to take a look at that, Collin? Look what it is. Look at that. We got the Shark Cam module. And the acoustic Doppler current provider and the lifting ball. It's even got a GoPro, Collin. I mean, all right. You know, this totally couldn't leave bombs on, something like a pipeline or anything like that. But anyway, there's this man. Yemeni Houthi official and his statement targeting these ships.
بيان صادر عن القوات المسلحة اليمنية بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Let's start that back. A statement issued by the Yemeni Armed Forces in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. The Almighty says, permission to fight is granted to those who are being fought because they were wronged, and indeed Allah is capable of granting them victory. This is the truth of Allah Almighty in support of the Palestinian people who are facing aggression and siege in the Gaza Strip up to this moment, and as part of the response to the American-British aggression on our country, the naval forces and the Yemeni armed forces, with the help of Allah Almighty, carried out 2 qualitative military operations targeting 2 American ships in the Gulf of Aden. The first, Sea Champion, and the second, Navis Fortuna. The targeting operation was carried out with a number of appropriate naval missiles, and the hits were accurate and direct by the grace of Allah. That brings the total number of operations of the armed forces in the 24 hours to 4. The first targeted a British ship and resulted in its complete sinking by the grace of Allah. The second operation targeted the American MQ-9 aircraft in the skies of Al Hodeida. Govern it. The last 2 operations targeted 2 American ships. The Yemeni armed forces affirm their full right to take further military measures. in the Red and Arabian Seas in defense of our people, our country, and our nation, and an affirmation of the supportive stance towards the oppressed Palestinian people, and that their operations of the Red and Arabian Seas will escalate and will not stop until the aggression ceases and the siege on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip is lifted. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs, the best master, and the best helper. Long live Yemen, free, dignified, and independent. Victory to Yemen and all the free people of the nation. Sana'a 9 Shaban, 1445 Hijri, corresponding to February 19th. So, yeah. Anything to add, Care Bear? He essentially told him to try Jesus. Sounded like. So, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
I don't think we've mentioned Yemen in passing before, but
yeah.
I mean, it's just showing. I'm going to call it the Israel project in terms of if you believe that all they're looking to do is just take over Palestine, like you're dead wrong. And given, two things, the oil that's off the coast, which I think people have already forgotten about, like that's a thing that Israel and the Western powers are trying. Number one. Number two, the Ben Gurion Canal project, which honestly, not sure if that will be a thing, but I think the potential might still be there given now Israel's it's always been shitty. They're even shittier relationship with Egypt right now.
Well, speaking of Joe Biden, President Joe Biden has repeatedly claimed the United States does not seek to expand the war in the Middle East. The actions of the U.S. military are undoubtedly making the situation in the Red Sea more tense. In the wave of American airstrikes targeting Hodeidah on Thursday for the 9th time that day alone, Ansar Allah Armed Forces spokesperson Brigadier Yahya Saree revealed that the group would take further measures within its legitimate right to self-defense in response to the repeated U.S.-UK aggression. In the same statement, Surrey announced that the Barbados-flagged British bulk carrier ship, the Lycabettos, was targeted by naval missiles while sailing in the Gulf of Aden, raising questions at the actual deterrence factor of Americans' escalatory approach. Prior to that, the leader of Ansar Allah, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the leader of the revolution that U.S.-backed Yemeni government in 2014, confirmed that any escalation on Ansar Allah part would be against Israel and to confront American and British aggression would not target the interests of ordinary Westerners. The comment came in response to claims circulated in the media that Ansar Allah could sabotage a network of underwater internet cables that run through the Red Sea. We do not plan to target submarine cables, and we have no intention of doing so. What is reported in the media is a lie aimed at distorting our humanitarian position on the war on Gaza, he said. Many Western outlets promoted the claim, raising fears of the safety of infrastructure critical to the functioning of the Western internet and the transmission of financial data. Yemen is strategically located as internet lines connecting entire continents passed near it. Almost like natural gas lines, Collin. Almost
probably, yeah.
I'd check for boots. Just saying. Airstrikes and claims that internet access may be cut off may be the tip of the escalatory iceberg, according to the government of Sana'a. The Minister of Information, Daifala al-Shami, held a press conference on Thursday announcing that they have information that the UAE is seeking to recruit agents from multiple foreign nationalities in cooperation with Al-Qaeda and ISIS to target ships in the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea in order to confuse and distort operations carried out by Ansar Allah in support of Gaza. According to al-Shami, the move is supported by the U.S. ISIS, that's the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, right? ISIS? Oh, wait, no, they're something else, right? Maybe what?
Yeah.
Contrary to what is being promoted in much of the Western media, which has taken the line that Ansar Allah's Red Sea blockade has nothing to do with the ongoing genocide in Gaza, review of the targets of Ansar Allah's attacks make their motivations crystal clear. On October 19th, Ansar Allah fired drones and missiles at Israel's southern Eilat port. In mid-November, the naval forces seized an Israeli ship headed towards occupied Palestine. Shortly after, Ansar Allah publicly announced that the Israeli-linked ship would not be allowed to pass through the Bab al-Mandab Strait. Later, they announced that the ban on shipping would extend to all vessels attempting to reach Eilat port. All of these measures were in support of a single, repeatedly declared goal, which was to pressure Israel to stop its war on Gaza and allow food and water to enter the besieged strip. With visible sadness and anger, Abdul Malik al-Houthi enumerated in a televised speech on Tuesday, we just heard, the reasons that motivate Yemen to continue operations to prevent international navigation supporting Israel in the Red Sea, the continued mass killing of the Gazans, renewed American support for Israel, including with lethal weapons and use of internationally banned weapons against civilians in Gaza, including white phosphorus. Al-Houthi said that the Yemeni military's retaliatory strikes in the Red Sea had proven to be effective as it led to the almost complete closure of the port of al-Rashash, the name of Eilat before Israel annexed it, and all food supply chains to Israel that were passing through the Red Sea, and Bab al-Mandab stopped by 70%, and prices in the Israel market rose by 30 to 50% after ships were forced to divert course through the Cape of Good Hope. Israel, he noted, was one of the largest beneficiaries of maritime trade, which imports in 2022 reaching to $133 billion, thanks to the Red Sea. Responding to those who questioned the feasibility of Ansar Allah's position, al-Houthi said that the Yemeni operations have caused repercussions for ship insurance, noting that insurers are now refusing to insure ships heading towards the port of Palestine. Not only that, he added, but insurance companies require Israeli and American ships to pay additional amounts of up to 50%. Our operations at sea led to a decline in Israel's total imports of products by 25% during the past months. Al-Houthi said the Israeli Minister of Economy and Industry admitted that Red Sea operations harmed its trade relations with 14 countries. Amid threats of escalation and even whispers of a Western-led ground invasion of Yemen, Ansar Allah has reiterated its commitment to its mission, mobilization, military training demonstrations, and other activities will be continued as long as the aggression against Gaza continues. It is reaffirmed, saying that operations at sea will continue until Israel allows food and medical supplies and the delivery of basic needs into Gaza. The U.S. and UK will not achieve their goals through aggression against our country, and the only solution is to stop the aggression and deliver food and medicine to the people of Gaza, al-Houthi vowed. Collin, I wanted to mention a phrase I've heard one of our friends mention, Fiorella, the word paper tigers. You know what that means? You heard of this phrase? Okay, so the argument has been that the U.S. military, and NATO military for that matter, is overpriced junk. Okay? And Russian military equipment, Chinese military equipment, things that the Yemenis have access to, work just fine.
Right.
And that we may not be the force we think we are. We fund millions of dollars into it, thousands of dollars of R&D, but, you know, planes don't work.
Well, no, but it makes, I mean, look at our infrastructure. You know, how much time does it take? I'm just thinking, I'm just going to give a very basic example, but it still applies here. So in DC, we've had issues with fare evasion. Like, people will hop over the gates,
Sure.
you know, in order to avoid paying the fare.
Yeah.
So they've essentially allegedly did, tested several different types of fare gates, and they ended up on, well, there was one that they initially did that basically was low, but it will kind of open like this, like basically at your knees.
Okay.
Like, but the idea was that they were they would take fares off your phone and all that kind of stuff. So the tech was there somewhat, but people were still able to hop over.
Even easier, jump the turn.
Yeah. So you can easily hop over it. So, but they spent millions of dollars in the name of fare evasion to install these high-tech fare gates, but people were still able to hop over them. So then they had to spend more money to essentially get taller ones that you would have, like, you technically can't not hop over them. They're a lot taller. You can still get over them if you really try, but it's the idea of like, we're just I say that because I think just generally in terms of our infrastructure, we seem to be very wasteful, and the things that we use are not working well, like, or at least to the best that you think that they should be, considering the money that people are paying into it, many times with our tax dollars. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that even our weapons are shit, because because given like our track record, like, who's gonna want the shit that we have here, and versus like maybe like China, like, that seems to be generally more efficient, maybe even cheaper, but better quality.
Take a look at Ukraine.
Well, it depends what it is.
How much aid have we spent in Ukraine, military and otherwise?
Billions.
They're still losing by a lot.
Right.
By a lot. So they're getting all the fancy everything from everyone. Airplanes, tanks, missile systems. It's all there. Russia still manages to do what they need to. So, what are you going to do? So,
yeah.
But that's all I had to talk about on that. So, if you guys want to, tell me what you think, leave a comment down below. Like, subscribe, share. Very easy. Please help share the stream. It's one of the best things you can do for us. Subscribing would also help. Hitting the bell. Make sure you know when we're live. If you hit that subscribe button, let me know what number you get. Put that in the comments down below too. Rockfin and Rumble. Let's go check there. If you don't know already, you can go to our Rockfin and Rumble channel and leave us tips, because we're monetized there, and I will read them. That's not the button I need. This is the button I need. There you go. Look at that. Indy Left just put the word boobies because they're on his mind. Apparently. Almost like Ukraine is the pretext for demilitarizing the West. Denver Atwood over on the Rockfin. Yes, that Beirut explosion was not fucking fertilizer. That was the PR line. Well, it was sure. I mean, it was ANFO and anhydrous ammonia, which same thing. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, could have been some other fun stuff there too. We're not sure how it started. Spontaneously combusted. So, fun stuff, right? But yeah, I'll take any info you got on that though. I'd love to read into more stuff like that. I'll put on my tinfoil hat. Rabbi Shmuley's used dildo in the chat says subscribe. Look at that. They know what to do. Good products by that guy, apparently. So, it's kosher. So you brought this story.
You did. You also helped me out with this. And again, I said this in earlier, just to be completely transparent. So this guy, because a couple of you asked, that's Alexei Navalny, who died last week. So in the space, a lot of people were talking about him in light of other people. And unfortunately, we have to say, as far as Stella, Assange, for lumping him with other.
Yeah, gross. Especially when your husband already called him out. Gross.
Right. So people are not too happy with her, and then obviously with Dr. West.
Craig Murray too. He pulled that crap too.
Really?
Don't tie that to Assange, please. Yeah.
But you know what? I think I understand why.
I know why they're doing it too. It just no.
Right.
Yeah, it's bad.
Regardless,
don't do that.
Right. Regardless, so this guy died over the weekend. So since then, let me move over. So Simon Ateba, White House correspondent, the African one, who usually gets into trouble, he tweeted, "Breaking, your reaction. During a virtual phone call moments ago, John Kirby said, at President Biden's direction, we've been announcing a major sanctions package on Friday of this week to hold Russia accountable for what happened to Mr. Navalny." Now, the T is, according to the powers that be, that Putin had something to do with this, so with his death, which has not been proven. There has been no evidence to even allude to the idea that Putin had any involvement. But we're already saying, when I say we, I say the empire is making the assumption that Putin Putin had something to do with it.
Yeah.
And so Biden was asked about this early in the week too. He didn't say much about it, but you can hear what he said here.
What I came to tell you was, I told you we'd be announcing sanctions on Russia. We'll have a major package announced on Friday. I'll be happy to sit with you all when doing that, okay?
Okay.
So Biden is declaring sanctions against Russia by the end of the week. We might want to possibly
keep tabs on that.
Yeah, well, keep tabs on it. Maybe even go live depending on what we hear. But
look at that.
But anyway,
Dave
this is
DeCamp.
from our friend Dave DeCamp. So he wrote, Biden says he'll impose major sanctions on Russia over Navalny's death. The White House is not offering any details on what the sanctions will entail. So I pulled this yesterday. As of now, I've heard no new information as of yet. If there is, you can let me know in the chat.
Another
anyway,
Indie Media Award honoree, by the way.
Yeah. So Dave writes, President Biden yesterday said his administration would be announcing major sanctions on Russia over the death of Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny. What I came to tell you was that we'll be announcing sanctions on Russia. We'll have a major package announced on Friday, Biden told reporters before boarding Marine One for a trip to the West Coast, probably for that fundraiser we were talking about. White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby also said the U.S. would be announcing a major sanctions package on Friday. Kirby said the sanctions would aim to hold Russia accountable for what happened to Mr. Navalny and, quite frankly, all of its actions over the course of this vicious and brutal war that has now raged on for 2 years. Of course, regarding to Ukraine, and thank you for ending Navalny. Okay.
Yeah,
so-
I mean, Navalny kind of works too, but, you know, I'll take it. Yep.
Kirby would not offer any details on the sanctions when asked, and it's unclear what steps the U.S. would take since it's already imposed so many sanctions on Russia. The White House is supportive of a plan to send $300 billion in frozen Russian central bank funds to Ukraine, which would mark a significant escalation of the economic war against Russia. But the U.S. needs Europe to be on board since that's where most of the money is being held, and recent reports have said no final decisions have been made. The U.S. has offered sharp criticism over the death of Navalny, who died at 47 while serving a 19-year prison sentence. The circumstances of his death are unclear, but President Biden immediately blamed Russian President Vladimir Putin, and hawks in the U.S. are using his death to justify spending more on the Ukraine proxy war. In contrast, the Biden administration has been silent about the death of Gonzalo Lira. We talked about, well, I know I talked about this with you privately, and others that I know privately, that Gonzalo Lira passed away within the last month. Nothing.
Nope,
and
crickets.
You could probably guess why the U.S. is saying nothing. Because to implicate him would to allude to the idea that their buddy, our crack addict, Helensky, had something to do with it, and God forbid we're going to say anything about him in terms
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
In terms of offing someone. So we're trying to make good with Ukraine and Zelensky right now. So that's why Gonzalo Lira is not being mentioned at all in this, but we hate Putin, so we're going to mention anything on him. But anyway, in contrast, the Biden administration has been silent on the death of Gonzalo Lira, an American who was imprisoned in Ukraine for his views on the war. Lira's father said the U.S. did nothing to help free his son. Lira died in January after a battle with pneumonia that he said was initially ignored by Ukrainian authorities. So you pulled this up. So do you want to explain?
I can explain. So Daily Mail writes, Alexei Navalny was killed by a KGB trademark single punch to the heart, human rights campaigner claims. Olga Basova, the 5-point palm exploding heart technique from Kill Bill, has been replicated in real life setting in an Arctic penal colony in Russia, according to the Daily Mail. Look at that. She's killing Bill right there. Spoilers. You know, but like this is how Russians train now, is they train in the art of, you know, kung fu. Super useful. You know, the Frank Dukes 5-finger death punch, classically, you know. They also got that Indiana Jones guy doing the Kali Ma bit, and they got him too. He's there at that Russian penal colony as well. So, you know, really impressive stuff from them. So, you brought this from Al Jazeera, right?
Well, I brought this. And it's we kind of have issues with it, but as I said, and I'm just being completely transparent, I said this earlier, I did not know who this guy was up until over the weekend. And then obviously, you know, talking with people in the space, and within like 10 minutes, I was just kind of like, oh no, this is guy's bad news. So, you know, but I do want to preface here, because he is an asset to us. And so I want to give people an understanding as to why he is an asset to us and his relationship with Putin, just to give you guys a little bit of a understanding of who he is. And then we're going to get to the bad shit later after this. So yeah, let's learn a little bit more about this guy.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Russia is Putin's world, and everyone's just living in it. They kind of have to. He controls basically everything: the state media, state-run companies, a powerful intelligence network, and as critics say, the justice system too. Putin's had his political challengers, but no one's really got the kind of attention that Alexei Navalny has. Navalny started out writing political commentary online. That's why Putin's people dismiss him as the blogger. But this is what he's known for.
Putin's a madman.
Система прогнила настолько, что в ней уже вообще нет здоровых частей.
There's slick investigative videos about corruption among Russia's rich and powerful. They get millions of views.
По кусочку каждому другу. Один садится на потоки «Газпрома», второй начинает доить «Роснефть», третий забирает себе крупу.
Back up a second.
Yep.
That went a little fast.
Come on.
Every one of Putin's friends gets a piece. One sits on the streams of Gabrizon. The second milks Rosneft. The third takes over the largest construction projects.
Yeah.
There is a great concern about the Russian elites, spending all this money. In the last years, the situation of the economy has not significantly improved, and wages have been stagnating.
What hasn't stagnated is Navalny's political ambition.
Who has the power here? We have the power.
He's organized protests,
The white power.
run for mayor of Moscow, and even tried running for president.
I'm going to run the next presidential election, and I will fight, for my country.
For victory, I think that's what it was.
It's been a tough fight. Navalny and his supporters say he's been held back at every turn. Multiple arrests for protesting, and 2 convictions for embezzlement and fraud. Though Navalny says he's innocent, and the European Court of Human Rights had issues with the legal process. One of those convictions even got him banned from running for president in 2017. And then there were all the attacks. Antiseptic was thrown in his face. He says he was poisoned in jail. And last year, someone apparently tried to kill him again.
Allegedly.
He got really sick on a domestic flight, fell into a coma, and had to be transferred to a hospital in Germany. Investigators in Berlin said he'd been poisoned with a nerve agent belonging to the Novichok family. It's a Soviet.
There's his wife. We'll get to her in a bit.
Have been accused of using before on one of their former spies and his daughter in the UK. Alexei Navalny blamed Putin and Russian intelligence. Putin just laughed it off.
If they wanted to fatally poison him, they would have finished it.
Right? Like.
So he's forced to go to Germany to get treatment.
Like, right?
Like, yeah, his way of saying, I want you to know I did it.
Not even.
To kill you.
Like, if it were him, we would have got the job done, is what he's saying. Like, we're good at this. So,
like, I know Putin to be many things, but sloppy.
No,
it's not one of them. So.
No, no.
Russians don't take a dump, son, without a plan.
Russian authorities turned around and said Navalny broke the rules by leaving the country, which means jail time. But that didn't stop Navalny from coming home.
Boy, bring us a little vodka. We're flying home, says Yulia, quoting a much-loved Russian gangster movie. It's a Navalny hallmark that he and his family make light of the many dangers they face, and what he faced was jail on arrival.
So why did he return to Russia? Well, Navalny says it was about sending a message that he's not afraid of Putin.
Fear nothing. The one thing you may be afraid of is your fear.
He's misquoting. The only thing to fear is fear itself.
For yourself, yeah.
He's a brave man. He has no fear of Putin. That's why if he stays abroad, well, he diminishes his claims.
For his return to Mother Russia, Navalny had something special in mind. Another video. This time, a straight shot at Putin.
Stop wasting your life and your taxes on enriching these people.
It's about a seaside palace that was supposedly built for Putin, though a Russian billionaire who's close to the president recently said it's his.
Not only this is about corruption, this is about Putin's transformation from great and very impressive leader into funny crook.
That video and Navalny's return kicked off some of the biggest protests Russia's had in a long time. They even spread to rural parts of Russia that haven't really had big demonstrations against Putin.
They plundered the whole of Russia. How can we be fine with that? They plundered it. Oil, gas, to whom does it belong? Why does a small group of people have everything in their hands?
Thousands of people have been arrested, Navalny's wife, his brother, and other opposition figures. All of this matters because there are parliamentary elections coming up in September. Some analysts talk about Russia's political scene being roughly divided into thirds. 1/3 of people who support Putin, 1/3 who oppose him, and another third who aren't sure. Putin supporters like the way things are. They even voted for a constitutional change that lets Putin run for president 2 more times, meaning he could stay in power until
Turn it up.
2036. And many of them don't like Navalny. They echo what the Kremlin and state media say, that he basically works for the CIA.
He's regarded as a political agent of the Russian enemies, first of all, of the United States.
There are other people who support Navalny or just want to vote for someone who isn't allied with Putin. But what about the millions of people in this section here?
There's also 1/3 that refrains from politics and evades politics, but maybe can't be mobilized.
Let's be clear, Putin still has a lot of support. Where Navalny has the edge is with young people who use social media. It's a weapon he understands better than most. And Navalny's been campaigning to knock Putin's base for a while. His project called Smart Voting kind of worked. United Russia lost its majority in 3 city councils.
I think the Kremlin is worried that there could be a sort of a potential backlash in the elections, although not at a massive scale, but the beginning of a significant turn.
So will Navalny's game plan work? Well, usually you'd measure that at the ballot box. But Russia doesn't have the best record of free and fair elections, based on an OSCE report at least.
We can claim that he's popular, he's not popular, but all of this, is very hard to assess if we do not have an open and effective system of competition.
Navalny's not trying to get rid of Putin overnight, but he is forcing Putin's hand, throwing Navalny in jail, arresting people, cracking down on dissent. It might just backfire. There's obviously a lot more to this story, and stuff is happening in Russia all the time.
Yes, there is, and we're gonna get to it because we're gonna have to undercut this pretty bad reporting that was probably from a long time ago. Al Jazeera, you can do better.
Right. I think this is from 2021, I believe. So
well, let's fast forward a bit. Here's some of the truth from Fiorella. Putin wasn't threatened by Navalny, who is polling in single digits. Only reason he was jailed is because he worked with the U.S. to try to overthrow the Russian government. Ukraine and NATO benefit much more from a dead Navalny to blame on Putin, given his recent successes. A whole lot of people just showed how compromised or ignorant they are by backing the State Department narrative on Navalny. The U.S. is Juan Guaido for Russia. A CIA-backed stooge used to attempt an overthrow of Russia's government and who also happens to be a neo-fascist. Western activism and politics always fails on foreign policy and continues to be easily infiltrated and duped. Stop relying on it. As someone in Moscow, Fee can attest that Navalny is irrelevant to the general public, and his sole relevance comes from Western politicians and their propaganda via Hollywood and news outlets. He's not a popular figure and at best looked on with curiosity or a shaking of the head. David Gondek replies, go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish.
So Russia is, go ahead.
No, finish.
Fine. Russia is run by the same type of corrupt elites who run the U.S. and the rest of the advanced democracies. Moral people shouldn't be supporting the cancer of elitism no matter where it exists. Navalny may have been working for the CIA, but his case against Russia was accurate. And Fee replies, hilarious that you think Navalny wasn't an elite. When one, he was funded by the West, and two, when his wife is now dating an oligarch who has been watched by the government for his own dealings. If anyone's taken on the oligarchy in recent Russia, it's been Putin, and the fact it's still a problem is true. Doesn't mean the U.S. is allowed to fund a dude to overthrow a sovereign government. Right. Speaking of wife, Navalny's wife appears to have been partying and enjoying life for much of her husband's incarceration, but now that he's gone, she is being activated in the role of a grieving widow. Despite all the evidence to the contrary, it's even more pathetic than the reality. John Lefebvre, it's all a lie. Within hours of Navalny's death, his wife was photo opping with Kamala.
Right.
Meanwhile,
and they happened to be, I think, in Berlin.
Yep.
At the same time.
Yeah, with Hillary.
So
was around there too.
No, with Kamala.
And Hillary.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So
meanwhile, when he was stuck in a Siberian jail, she had already dumped him for a toy boy lover. Also, she met with Frau Genocide, as Claire Daly would call von der Leyen recently as well. So I wanted to bring up this, which I forgot to put the video in. So let me grab that real quick.
While you do that, I can finish my thought. But
yep.
Even though I think still it was important what I played from Al Jazeera anyway, because that's what most people would see. And they would think, and I think we've been propagandized to death. And we have our own issues with Putin here. But, you know, the general narrative is that Putin's bad, Putin's bad, Putin's bad, Putin's bad, Putin's bad. And that we've been hearing that enough that even among people within our space, we have been so conditioned to think that anyone who potentially is trying to, you know, usurp Putin potentially must be okay, you know, but not without knowing all of the other parts to him that you brought into this segment that people would not necessarily know. That's where it gets troublesome.
Speaking of, Navalny's partner asks MI6 agent for $20 million to stage a color revolution in Russia in 2012. It is Vladimir Ashurikov, executive director of Navalny's anti-corruption organization. So let me grab this video for you. And here we go. And let's play that for the people at home.
If we had more money, we would expend our opportunities, of course. A little money. Oh, yeah, I got it. A little money, if somebody would spend, I don't know. 10
a year on supporting this, we would see quite a different picture. You know, not a big.
And this is not a big amount of money for people who have billions at stake.
Money for people who have billions at stake in this game. So that's the message.
So that's the message that I'm trying to project in my fundraising effort. And talking to people in the business community and so on. We need to play on different chessboards. Mass protests, civil initiatives, propaganda, establishing contacts with the elite, and explaining to them that we are reasonable people and we're not going to demolish everything and take away their assets, things like that. So we'll see what comes out of that. So this probably is perhaps what I do. Well, yeah. not a small job. Laughs.
That was MI6 he was speaking to. So, in case you were wondering. So, let's talk about Navalny's CIA connection. So, this is a cable from WikiLeaks. Okay? Be nice if Stella might have read some of those. About the funding by the NED-CIA of the party that Navalny created in 2005. Quote, Democratic Alternative. So, DA Maria Gaydar, daughter of former Prime Minister Yegor Gaydar, leads DA, Democratic Alternative. She is ardent in the promotion of democracy, but realistic about the obstacles she faces. Gaydar said that DA is focused on nonpartisan activities designed to raise political awareness. She had received funding from, guess where, Care Bear?
Us.
National Endowment for Democracy, a.k.a. the NED. What do we know about them, Care Bear? We've covered them on our show. When Max and I think Aaron called this lady out that was working at the NED and how they're a CIA cutout.
Yeah.
So, a fact she does not publicize for fear of appearing compromised by an American connection. She told us that Democratic Alternative was a complement to Aberana, not a competitor. People would not want to join Aberana, would not want to join DA, and vice versa. But we worked together for a common goal. Gaydar told us that DA was more a forum for open discussion than a political movement. She has organized a series of debates among people with conservative viewpoints. She is also planning to hold a summer camp in 2007 to train up to 2,000 students in the way of democratic activism. How conservative a viewpoint do you think they push, Care Bear?
Well,
you want to find out?
Well, I already know, but that
Yes.
this is the part where, you know, people like Dr. West got in trouble because this is the part that they didn't know. So yeah, so this will kind of explain
some things. Yeah. The Russian marches began around 2005. The municipality of Moscow denies authorization for the 2006 marches due to the well-known xenophobic content being propagated and the presence of neo-Nazis. And I don't mean just a small presence. Navalny exposes himself publicly, asking for the demonstration to take place in the following years. He will also figure among the organizers.
Go back like 10 seconds.
Yep, I know what you want to pause on. No, race a little more.
Go back again to that, like a couple seconds.
This?
Yeah. Zoom in on that Spiegel International picture there. Underneath, there's that text. So, Alexei Navalny was one of the co-organizers in 2011 of the Russian March
on Moscow,
an annual rally of right-wing nationalists. In other words, you know what that is.
Yeah, these things.
Right.
Racist slogans were heard among the crowd as some 7,000 radical nationalists joined an annual demonstration known as the Russian March. They're united in anger at corruption, crime, immigration.
Alex Navalny is with us today.
Is with us today to the Russian March.
Всем привет, с праздником!
Hello, everyone. Glory to Russia. Do they need to be afraid? Vladimir
Putin.
Demokadev, this guy in the circle right here. Yes.
Yeah. He is the movement against illegal immigration. With that symbol, a Russian neo-Nazi organization banned for extremism in 2011. So, Alexander Belov Potkin, responsible for Ruskije, Russian neo-Nazi organization banned for extremism in 2015. Belov was arrested in 2014 of charges of economic crimes. In 2016, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for inciting inter-ethnic hatred.
Господь Бог дал великую территорию. Сохранение для вас. Никто не имеет права посягать на права и интересы моего народа. Россия должна стать
Dmitry Demushkin, founder of SS, which is a bad name already.
Slavic.
Soyuz.
Slavic, but Slavic Union.
Yeah.
Russian neo.
Nazi organization.
Organization banned for extremism in 2010.
I love their signal is just infinite swastika, pretty much. That's their symbol.
Right.
Национальным государством. Нынешняя власть не способна адекватно выполнять функции защиты и сбережения нашей нации.
That's Flight of the Valkyries, Hitler's favorite. In 2011, Navalny joins the Russian neo-Nazi campaign Stop Feeding the Caucasus, which aims to end federal subsidies to the Caucasus republics of the Russian Federation, accused by the nationalists of being too greedy. The xenophobic blogger intervenes from the stage and promotes the media campaign, always in the presence of leaders of the Russian neo-Nazi movement.
So basically the brown people who live in Russia.
Yes. Away from the Caucasus republics. Is that where the Caucasians are from, or is that the other place?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Был
опрос, сколько людей поддерживают кампанию «Хватит кормить Кавказ».
There's Navalny.
89% высказали за то, что не
In 2011, Navalny joins the Russian neo
we read that.
Oh, yeah.
With the xenophobic movement, Narod, in 2008, Navalny allies himself with the neo-Nazi organizations Greater Russia and Movement Against Illegal Immigration. There are racist allusions in Narod's videos, such as when he compared the dark-skinned jihadist militants of the Caucasus to cockroaches. In the same year, and still against the people of the Caucasus, he went so far as to demand the expulsion of all Georgians from the Russian Federation following the outbreak of the Second War in South Ossetia. The Atlantic, he also supported Russia in its war against Georgia, right? So...
о борьбе с насекомыми. Никто из нас не застрахован от того, что в наш дом заползет таракан. Фу, ну или в форточку залетит муха. Все мы знаем, что от мух отлично помогает муха.
So that's his depiction of the Muslim people.
Но что делать, если таракан окажется слишком велик, а муха не в меру агрессивна? Ну а в этом случае я рекомендую пистолет.
In 2013, tensions arose in Russia between the ethnic Russian population and the minorities from the Caucasus due to a murder committed by a man originally from Azerbaijan. The situation, inflamed by Russian neo-Nazis, culminates in the beating of immigrants and attacks on the shops they run. Navalny sides with the anti-immigration movement and defends the attackers, speaking of them as people who have clashed with hordes of legal and illegal immigrants. Sobyanin failed to co-opt them in the lead-up to the election. After this weekend's riot in Moscow, Navalny again showed his sympathy for the anti-immigrant movement, lashing out against the hordes of illegal immigrants who live and work under the city's bazaars, From there, they crawl out of the surrounding neighborhoods. Navalny wrote on his blog on Monday, "They're not going to die of hunger."
This is amateur video footage of the riots. The young men are shouting nationalist slogans. The mall they're attacking has shop owners from the predominantly Muslim republics of the North Caucasus and the former Soviet republics of Central Asia.
These photos and videos of pro-Russia protests in Russia are shockingly intense from BuzzFeed News. Biden administration calls on Russia to free jailed opposition leader Navalny as well as pro-democracy protesters. From Reuters, EU to hold off new Russia sanctions if Navalny is released. The European Union will... Oh, go back?
Yeah.
The European Union will hold off from imposing fresh sanctions on Russian individuals if the Kremlin releases pro-democracy campaigner Alexei Navalny.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, hold on, that was, I'm looking at the date.
January 25th, 2021.
2021.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
3 years ago.
Yep. So
that's why he's a problem, folks.
Oh, God. Why is this hard to figure out when you can easily figure this out? I don't know.
Well, to be fair, it took me some doing to find that.
Sure. But, I mean, it didn't take me that long. But, you know.
It didn't take me that long, but a lot of the better stuff about Navalny was prioritized. And we can probably guess why that was prioritized. Yeah. So, you know, but it also just kind of show you, like, you know, when Biden talks about, you know, he wants to, whatever he says regarding the soul of the nation, and he wants to, and the reason why he wanted to become president is because Trump, you know, was raking the flames of white supremacy.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with this guy who is essentially a white supremacist and a nationalist to boot.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it just shows the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. Well, I'll say this. They don't mind using a nationalist if it meets their interests.
Yeah.
So,
like all of Ukraine. So, right. I mean, not all, but, you know, whatever.
Right. So,
yeah.
So, yeah. So, overall, not a good guy.
No.
But because...
And the people hate him. He polled at 2%. So...
Right. You know, and I saw, like, and I should have pulled this, but Hotspot had a quick interview with someone, American who was living in Russia, because, you know, like, mainstream media was saying that there were mass protests for Navalny, like what you saw in Al Jazeera.
Yeah, and he was like, no.
And the guy was
no.
And the guy was like, no, there's nobody here.
Yet.
Like,
yet.
So,
yeah.
So he's not. So, but again, going back to Assange, you know, you wouldn't necessarily know that all of this, you know, if it wasn't available to you, and just God forbid we were able to get it to kind of show you guys. But, you know, but again, like, even for me, as I was pulling this, a lot of the good stuff about Navalny was pushed to the top of the algorithm. So not to say I was able to get this, but this was kind of pushed way toward the bottom. And if I wasn't necessarily looking for it, I wouldn't have been able to find that. So I can understand in a way why people would get this wrong. But again, when people are telling you overwhelmingly about this guy is not good news, I would think that you would at least be curious and kind of look into it a little bit more before you make your statements.
Shame on you for not doing the research. Watch our stream. Would have been easy. But you know,
late for that. Too little, too late. Now,
you know, you can always admit you didn't know things. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Always useful. Please share this stream, this clip. We can always appreciate and use some sharing. You know, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what number you got. We're trying to get to 2K. You know, we're almost there. The number's going up. So, you know, and while we check on Rockfin and Rumble, which you can always leave us Super Rays and Rumble Rants, which I will leave for you in the chat. Links to both those things. I don't know why I got a new button on the mouse, and then I always hit the one under it, which is the Indie Media Award button. There's this one, there's Rockfin, and there's Rumble, which you are welcome to go subscribe there. If they ever take us off YouTube, you can find us there.
Which they might after this. Don't want to put that on the universe.
Yeah, knock on wood. But yeah, you can check us out over there. Let's see what Rockfin has in store for us. Ghost Start. Hours after being detained by SFB on the charge of spying, White House warns U.S. citizens not to travel to Russia, and citizens already there to leave immediately. Says he was tolling at 2%. Russians hated him. So Navalny, CIA, NED. Yeah. Israeli military contract Elbit Systems touting field proven on Palestinians contracted for high-tech surveillance systems on Tuhana O'Donim land, Arizona. We've talked about Elbit Systems and particularly the organizers going at them. You should check that out. Should be in the playlist. So let's check the Rockfin. Let's see what they got. Calling yourself a Nazi, even though Nazis killed like 27 million Russians in World War II, takes a special kind of mindset. Denver Attaway, Gaydar, wow, what a name. You know, I mean, useful tool sometimes. What noise does a Gaydar make is the question. You know, regular radars make noise. What does a Gaydar make? You know, that's the question. I mean, RuPaul's theme song is not available either, so. And Denver Adway sending me stuff on the Beirut bombing. Cool. I'll take a look at that. Collin, anything else to add tonight before we head out of here? Andy will be letting us know what is happening this week. If anything, I'm gonna take a big long nap.
Yeah, you should. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for coming. After our first stream crash, we'll try our best to
get it
at least for the first.
Rumble should have the whole thing. I think it shoves them together. So that's nice. So Rumble.
I think we'll figure that out at least when we clip it. But yeah. So Angel in the afternoon, Friday.
Yep.
We'll see. Oh yeah, Indy was on Hardlands yesterday, which he doesn't Kit doesn't do clips. Streams, but you can watch Indy in the clips that are available now.
Yep.
You know, Rob Jurgen was on RBN.
Misty was on
had a
RBN
new
too.
video for his channel. Misty was on RBN. As I said, I was on Misty's show yesterday.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot happening. That we had a full week already.
You can always check our Twitter, you know, and find all of our stuff there. Our Indy also publishes stuff to our Substack at the end of the week. For what happened at INN, always useful to check out. Links to everything in the description at the Linktree at indienews.network.
Angel's doing
his wrestling show. If you're into pro wrestling, he's been doing that up
on Saturday. I think Monday maybe Crab might do Politically Homeless.
Sure.
Jesse will be on with American Tradition next Tuesday.
Yep.
And then we'll be back
next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday for INN News. Oh, so not next week, but the following week, which I think if I get my dates right is the 5th of March. That would be, I think the 5th is our 2-year anniversary when we started INN News on, and then the following week on the 12th, that'll be 100th episode. So, and then it's your birthday in the midst of all of that.
Yep.
So
we got too many of us Pisces babies in the group. Jesse's birthday's coming up too, I think.
Yeah, there's just too many Pisces in independent media, which explains a lot.
What do you mean? Y'all and your birthday racism, you know? It's weird.
Well, there's you, there's Crab, there's
Jesse,
Kit, there's Sabby, Jesse.
Yep. What's 9 months before then? Before
what?
Pisces? What's 9 months before then?
Me.
Count back 9 months before like March.
So that's September.
Yeah. So do the math. That's what happened. Indy's like June. Yeah. People math. Yeah. Summer lovin', as Greece would tell you.
Oh, that's what you mean. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
I was like, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Yeah.
Regardless, a lot of February, March babies in independent media scenes.
Yeah. Kit just had his birthday. Happy birthday, Kit. So yeah. Anything else?
Birthday today or yesterday.
I think that's it.
No, that's it. At least for me. At least for Indy, it's nothing else. But yeah, if there's any updates or any new things, follow us on Twitter, and we'll let you guys know.
Yep.
All the things.
Message us on Twitter too. You know, let us know if you want Indy Left to do another show on Sunday. You know. What? Who? What? We should get out of here. But anyway, you know, keep up the fight, people. As always, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye, have a great time.